Ned Stark and Robert Baratheon have one of the best bromances in all of Game of Thrones. But what if these two took it to another level? What if Robert Baratheon and Ned Stark were actually in love? How would this change events within Westeros?
Yes, they aren't Robert and Ned in this scenario. They are, Robard, Eddard, a combination of their names. The unlikely alliance, the unholy union of these two high tea men with their anvil chins and their giant weapons. In this situation where these two get together, there has to be a point in time where it's the most feasible. And I think that the most feasible time for these two to get together would be after the vast majority of Robert's rebellion, if not all of it. This is going to be after the Tower of Joy, after Lyanna died, and maybe right before Robert ascends the throne or whatever. But basically, I'm thinking Lyanna's dead. That's Robert's love, right? But in this situation, he kind of has some time. He mulls it over, maybe thinks back to all those times where, you know, him and Ned had these little moments where their eyes met and then they look away really quickly. Or it's really, really cute, right?
These two were in the Vale, basically, together for their, I don't know how long they were there for in their childhood.
Years.
But long enough for them to grow very close, closer than brothers. And what's the next step after brothers?
Oh, yeah, I was wrong, Ned. It wasn't Lyanna I wanted. It was you. That's what we need. That's what we need.
I want Robert to be, after the Battle of the Triton, is like, as I was crushing Rhaegar's chest, all I could think about was crushing your bussy, Ned. Oh, that's all I want.
Damn you.
I didn't even think of Lyanna for a second. I just wanted you.
So he realized okay, that's fine. That's cool with me. He could realize mid-fight with Rhaegar. He's like, what am I even doing? As his hammer is crashing down into that breastplate, it's a point of no return. He already killed Rhaegar, but he realizes, sorry, bro, I didn't even need to do that. Turns out Lyanna wasn't that big of a deal after all. But now I'm going to be king. I have to be king. It is his duty, after all, to take that throne. Who else would get it? No one else is going to get it. It's still going to be Robert, even with Ned at his side. But now they have to work out the logistics of how are they going to keep this thing a secret? Because, again, you can't just have a king with another guy. Robert has probably already been sworn to Cersei at this point. Ned is actively married right now to Catelyn, and Robb is either in Catelyn's belly still or born by the time they're getting together and doing this. And, like, okay, let's just pretend it's like a situation in real life where these two realize their love for each other and they consummate it, right? After that point, Ned is going to channel that inner honor that we hate so much on this channel. He's going to have to tell Catelyn. He's not going to be able to live with himself. He's not going to have an affair on the side. We know that about Ned. He's not going to keep a secret just to serve his own pleasure and his own benefit. He's going to tell Catelyn that there's at least something going on. Maybe he doesn't reveal it's Robert and that it's gay, but he's going to reveal, like, my heart belongs to another. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be something that. For sure, it has to be.
And that's how he plays off Jon's birth as well, that he has this bastard son, and he says, oh, I found something else. I love it. What can I say? I will do my duty and I will produce an heir. Not only maybe Robb, but maybe others. I'll try to at least.
Yeah, maybe.
But because they're so far apart, because I think even though Catelyn and Ned are still together, I don't know how much Cat is going to be down in King's Landing, especially because I think Jon is going to be raised in King's Landing with Ned, not in the Red Keep exactly, but somewhere near where he can, keep eyes on him. Almost like how Robert had Edric Storm being raised in Storm's End. But speaking of Edric Storm, during this whole process of, Jon Snow being raised, Ned and Robert in love, does Robert create as many bastards as he does in the main series, or is he content with the Nussy?
I think he's totally content with the Nussy. I think he is getting satisfied from that. In my impression of Robert, the only reason why he really whores around and stuff post-marriage with Cersei is just because he's not fulfilled, he's not satisfied, he's hungry for both the battlefield and Lyanna, but of course in this situation, it's actually Ned he wants, right? And now he has it, so he's actually being fulfilled sexually and romantically. He probably won't be as much of an alcoholic as much either, because he's going to have that vice on the side and this like super strong figure. Even in the main continuity, let's say, where he wasn't gay with Ned, it probably would have even helped his alcoholism to have regular old best buddy Ned down there with him, let alone this version where they're, bumping fugglies literally all the time. They're both virile as hell. He's not going to need to whore around, although I do think he's still going to be with Cersei, like we said at the beginning, just because they need to maintain that facade. And just like how Catelyn would need to know something's going on, I also think that Ned is not going to be the other woman, right, to Robert. I think that is going to be insisted upon that Cersei knows about their situation, which could result in like this mutual blackmail sort of thing, right? Like where Cersei and Jaime are aware of the Ned and Robert relationship and vice versa, so that no one spills the beans about anything. It could actually end up being a much more stable environment.
With Ned being there, I think it risks Jaime not being on the Kingsguard, but I still think he gets in just because Tywin and Jon Arryn most likely will be down there to also, push that, we have to keep the peace, Robert. We need to keep the Lannisters happy. So Jaime's down there, which then means Cersei and them are bumping uglies. It also, future conflict-wise, it's going to become an issue if there's not enough bastard evidence against Robert, if there's not enough black-haired Baratheons whenever these blonde ones come out. So I think we still say Joffrey and Marcella and Tommen are all born, right, as bastard incest babies, correct?
I think all three of them are. In fact, I was going to say this earlier and I forgot. The only bastard I am aware of that should be alive from Robert with the black hair to confirm, I think that's Maya Stone. I think she's the only one for sure that's going to be born. Maybe there's some unnamed ones as well on the side, but they aren't really relevant. You know what I mean? The bottom line is like Gendry and Edric Storm are not going to be in the picture, which are the only relevant ones to the whole scandal.
And comment down below if we missed out on a bastard too, and smash that like button, like like Robert smashing that Nussy, right?
I'm gonna get romantic with your prostate, Ned.
So Robert's king. He now has the crown. He's attempting to keep his relationship with Ned safe. Ned is hand of the king. Catelyn is where? We said Winterfell. Did she originally start in King's Landing, then goes up to Winterfell after she realizes this like relationship with Ned is like very loveless and she'd be better off? I mean, as soon as Rob's born, I feel like Rob needs to be up there, Rob Stark, to learn from the current Lord of Winterfell, which would be Benjen.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah, I think so. And I think Catelyn's definitely up there with him because, like you said, it's going to be a sort of loveless, meaningless marriage. She's going to be very disgruntled. She's already a very disgruntled person. And I know she hates the North, but I'm thinking that in this situation, she'll definitely be up there most of the time, if not all the time, like maybe taking some trips down to the Riverlands, if anything, but probably never to King's Landing. She wants to be with her son. She's got those maternal instincts. And I think this is going to tear a rift not only between Catelyn and Ned and Jon, especially now, by the way, because she's under the impression that Ned is with the actual mother of Jon Snow still to this day, and he's spending all of his time down in King's Landing, like raising this bastard closer to him as a son than Rob and kind of neglecting Rob. Even though he's going to be Lord someday up there in the North. But I think it'll also tear a rift between Rob and Ned for the exact same reasons. He's like, what the fuck is this? What's going on? Like, I understand my dad's got to do his duty, but another woman and their kid down there who looks more like my father than I do?
True, yeah. And if anything, it makes me think that, maybe we'll do a theory video on it that all of Ned's kids are bastards because none of them, except for maybe Arya, actually look like Starks. They all look like Tullys.
Yes.
So it basically has the same thing that Cersei has with Robert Baratheon, that all of her kids look like her. Same with Catelyn, all of her kids look like her for the most part. So, maybe Ned and Robert are more common than we thought in the main series. I don't know what's going on, though. Those not strong swimmers, very weak swimmers.
Yeah, the Starks are pathetic. But then again, how stupid they are. They have like the single syllable names because they're literally the first man so stupid. Ned. It's all they can say. They can only remember one syllable, so that's what they have to go with. Dumb as hell, dude.
I just want to say, in this what-if scenario, because there's such a fundamental change with these characters early on in this main timeline, it's like right as they're like coming into power, that these slight changes, like a degrees on a voyage, if you're off 1 degree, you might miss the island completely. I think if you move 1 degree off, it's going to change their character enough further down the line that we might see, Catelyn and Ned be not totally different, but just in totally different places mentally. And their views of one another because we're changing this just one aspect of them. So I want people just to understand that if they're like, oh, Ned would never do that. But it's like, well, the Ned was in Winterfell for how many years with his kids doing all these things. Now he's in King's Landing. He's potentially learning the game more than he would be if he was just Lord of Winterfell for so long, which what's the most political tension up there is Bolton's wearing too much skins up there. They're like, oh, dude, they're skinning way too many people here. These Boltons, what are they going to do with these guys? I don't. What's the tension up there? What's the political tension up in the North during this time?
Well, I don't know. Like right now, there's not going to be much tension in the North at all unless you kind of throw somebody like Littlefinger into the mix, and we'll get to that. We will definitely get to that. But in regards to the thing you were talking about there with characters being a little bit different, I wouldn't say like they'd be different necessarily, but maybe just like a little bit more malleable within like the decisions we've seen them make, maybe more reluctantly or less reluctantly. So like the example I can think of would be we see Ned after being basically imprisoned in a dungeon for weeks, if not months, and starved and dehydrated. And then Varys comes down there and bitch slaps him, with his
Ken doll body.
No, his non-castrated. We think that's a conspiracy on this channel.
True. I mean, yes. I was going with the normie take that he has nothing there, but
no, he's full. He's packing.
Think he's
packing. And he slapped it across Ned's face. He's like, "Hey, dude, I understand that you have a lot of honor and you don't want to lie about the nature of Joffrey's parenthood, but is that more important than potentially saving your daughter's life?" And ultimately, I do think he saved Sansa's life by lying about that. You know what I mean? When the moment came, and then Joffrey ended up taking his head. But that's what it took to get him to get into that mindset. It took Varys browbeating him after being in prison for that long. I think in his more youthful stage like this, he's a little bit more hot-headed maybe just because he's younger, higher T, a little more emotion-driven. Maybe he would be able to accept something like that a little bit sooner. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, in a normal scenario, he's fucking Robert. Joffrey pops out, who's clearly the bastard of Cersei and Jaime. He's still probably not going to want this bastard to be king under false pretenses, you know what I mean? But in this situation, he's a little bit younger, given everything else that's super screwed up about the situation, I think he might be able to be convinced to just allow that to happen. You know what I mean? Like, okay, yes, Joffrey's going to be king. His last name's going to be Baratheon. It's a little bit fudged, but, it's whatever. It's not like the Baratheon line is ending. You still have Stannis and Renly.
Yeah, and I think if Ned's down there, Robert might act a little differently, might be a little kinder. I don't think Robert has the bloodlust to go after the Targaryens as much as if he has Ned literally whispering in his ear at night as he's about to fall asleep, like, "Hey, just don't do that." He's like, "Okay, I'll do that thing you like if you don't do that." He's like, "Oh, Ned, you little minx.
Take me now, Robert." He's like, "Okay, Ned." It's like, our balls will flatten like golf balls in slow motion when they clap together. You ever seen those videos where they get completely flat? Oh, it's messed up.
We'll link a video down. Just go down in the comments or go down in the description of this video. We'll link a video to that if you guys are curious what that looks like.
Yeah, check it out.
So we might actually see a different version of Joffrey Baratheon. He might not be nearly as psychotic if Ned's able to get in there and be like, "Hey, listen, I'll teach you how to be a better boy than how Robert is raising you, or lack thereof." Maybe Robert's way more focused in, or just more focused on raising Joffrey. So he just, again, degrees off. Maybe Joffrey's still a spoiled little brat, but he's not, potentially cutting up cats. And maybe doesn't have no ill will towards Ned in all of this, because he sees him as somewhat of a, oh, good old Uncle Ned. I love Ned.
Yeah, I think he will like Ned a little bit, and I do think that this will be important going forward. I think that ultimately, because of this whole understood alliance thing here, not counting Tywin, we're basically just talking about Cersei and Jaime and then the bastards, right? I think over time, even though Jaime and Ned have this bad blood between them with the whole throne thing or whatever, they're forced to spend so much time together, and they're both going to be probably bonding over this shared secrecy. And Jon Snow is in the mix too. Okay, Jon Snow is here. Don't even know if his last name is going to be Snow in this situation, because he barely is going to touch Winterfell. But he's going to be hanging out with Jaime a lot as well, I think. And I don't think he's even going to be raised outside the city walls. I think that Ned cares about his bastard, especially considering the circumstances of his birth. I think he will be raised in the Red Keep. I don't see why not. I think at least wherever Ned is raised, I think Robert won't give a shit. I think Robert might even see him as a little kind of surrogate son to himself. You know what I mean? It's like, he's like the spoils of war, Ned. Even though Ned was presumably smashing women in order to conceive this kid for Robert, from Robert's point of view, and he's gay now, whatever. It's like, bring him on in. I'll be the mother that he needs so desperately. Why not?
In the Red Keep, though, do you think Jon Arryn's okay with that? And is Jon Arryn, do you think he's on the council? Because Ned Stark is currently Hand of the King.
Yeah, I think there's a place for him on the council. I think that Robert and Ned both would desperately want him in King's Landing because he's such a role model to them. And I definitely think that he can't be Hand, though. It doesn't really... None of the other positions make a lot of sense for Ned, I don't think, to justify him leaving his post at Winterfell. I think he has to be Hand. And I think that Jon Arryn, Master of Ships doesn't really work. Coin, no. But Master of Laws, I think potentially Jon Arryn could take that up and do pretty well at it.
Yeah, and I think if Jon is in King's Landing, then Littlefinger still has the potential to rise through the ranks in the Vale. Then Lysa is able to tell Jon Arryn that, hey, listen, this guy's pretty cool. This guy's knows what he's doing with these coins. So I think eventually Littlefinger goes over there as well, just basically has the same ascension as he does in the original series, except I think once Littlefinger's there, he's going to not only... Well, actually, what do you think he's going to find out about within the Red Keep? Do you think he finds out about Robert and Ned and Cersei and Jaime? What things do you think he finds out about this? I think the number one guarantee is he finds out there's tension between Ned and Catelyn.
Well, dude, like him and Varys both, they have such extensive spy networks. I kind of think Littlefinger would have found out about the nature of both of their relationships, even if he never came to King's Landing. Eventually, it would have been a lot slower, but I think when he gets to King's Landing, and especially if he becomes Master of Coin still, oh yeah, I think he learns both things very quickly, and I think that is probably the main source of conflict here, because we're not going to have the same situation as in the main continuity with like the War of the Five Kings, stuff like that. So Littlefinger's gonna be the driving force of conflict here. What does he want? He wants Catelyn, right? This is a perfect opportunity to kind of manipulate events to drive her and Ned to the breaking point, maybe even kill Ned. We'll talk about it, and then he can swoop in there and manipulate Catelyn however he wants. Maybe even have Robb as a little surrogate Sonny boy.
Yeah, I definitely. But Littlefinger's in King's Landing in the Red Keep. I think he's going to target every point of conflict, see what has legs on it, exploit it, try to, create division in little angles that people might think of because, maybe Littlefinger is in the Red Keep and he sees Jon Snow, or it could be John Rivers for all we know his last name at this point, right? And he might be pushing the fact that, why is this bastard around all the time? It's not professional to have this bastard. I don't care if it's the hand of the king. It's just not good. And maybe he whispers this in other people's ears that are willing to listen, right? He's not going to tell Robert that, but he gets maybe Cersei to get mad about it. And, Cersei has a big issue with it. And maybe this is what drives Ned to say, well, maybe I'll just legitimize him. Robb was born first, according to his story, even though I think Jon in actual events is born first because Rhaegar and Lyanna consummated before Ned and Catelyn did, I believe.
Yeah.
But in the story that Ned's pushing out, Jon was born second and Robb was born first. So legitimizing Jon wouldn't make him the heir of Winterfell. It would, Robb would still be that. And, maybe this is starting some wheels for Littlefinger being like, okay, well, maybe Ned is pushing some conflict between him and Winterfell without involuntarily, right? So, because Stannis is in King's Landing right now. Stannis is like the master of ships, I think. If Stannis is there, then the whole bastard thing plus potentially Joffrey bastard stuff, he could be pumping that somehow to Stannis. And can you imagine just Stannis's rage?
This poor man.
Just like, he's like George Costanza, just like, Stannis is getting upset. Robert.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, he'd be so mad, dude. He would, because he's such a pious, like, honorable dude, and not because he enjoys it, but just because he knows he has to be that way. So, yeah, man. Oh,
there's
that
simple
would suck.
fucking rules. Just follow the rules, guys.
I would like, for my own sanity, I would like to just not even acknowledge the situation where he finds out that his brother's, clapping Ned. At least he's top. At least he's top,
Yeah, that's true. Does he, after realizing Robert's gay, knowing Renly's gay, does he go, what the hell's wrong with is there something wrong with me? Is there something wrong with me that I'm the only straight one out of the family? Was there something I didn't know about my dad? Like, what's going on here?
Maybe he just jumps on the bandwagon, you think? Does he just become gay too? Or is Renly even gay in this world? If Robert took all the gay genes, maybe Renly's straight now. I mean, Renly may or may not be straight in the main continuity too, but...
So Davos, give me those bag of fingers. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I gotta test some stuff. I gotta run some experiments. But okay, so Stannis knowing aside,
I think there's conflict with Stannis. That's what
there could definitely be conflict with Stannis, but I think the more pivotal conflict, like the central conflict here, is going to be the North being pushed to have conflict with King's Landing via Littlefinger's, insistence on making chaos and trying to get into Catelyn's nasty panties, right? I think that's the way. I think that's the main source of conflict here.
So I think Littlefinger, once he realizes there's tension between Ned and Catelyn, he doesn't stay down in King's Landing long. Or if anything, he goes up there to Winterfell to visit, do whatever. And he'll definitely either just try to get in that friend zone just so he can kind of creep into Catelyn's good graces and then plant seeds of I heard that Ned is trying to legitimize his son. I wonder what that's all about. That's kind of weird. Twisting her mind. And Catelyn's already unhinged as it is. Like we said earlier, Catelyn being around Ned he was basically able to beat her into submission and not to be, kind of be more chill about the whole Jon scenario. Imagine her without Ned.
Oh, dude, yeah, 100% true. She can just spiral, right? She can spiral. Like, Ned is annoying and he's super honorable, but he is like a calm voice in the room or whatever. So he could definitely probably disarm a situation once in a while, even if it's frustrating.
Right.
What needs to happen, in my mind, is that in this situation where Robb is having Benjen here as at least an older brother figure, if not a father figure, he needs to die. The narrative of that death needs to be blaming Ned in some way to fully mobilize Robb and Catelyn against him, because remember, there's going to be huge tension here to begin with. So what I think Littlefinger needs to orchestrate an assassination of Benjen and plant circumstantial evidence, maybe even a note or a letter that basically has the Lannisters conspiring to take out not Benjen, but Robb and Catelyn, right? That's the plan, to take them out. So that way it looks like when Ned naturally legitimizes Jon down south just to be a good dad, right? Just to be a good guy, maybe appease Stannis. Like, no, it's a legitimate son that is hanging out here on the Red Keep all the time. When that happens, and then they also have this information that, wait a minute, the Lannisters tried to execute me, Robb, and my mother, Catelyn, while my father is legitimizing the bastard that's being raised in this position that I should be in. They're going to be like, oh, I know exactly what's going on here. They're all friendly with the Lannisters down there. They're trying to form like this north-south coalition of dominance, the Lannisters with my father. You know what I'm saying? Like, and just usurp the genetic power structure that should be, which is Robb takes the Winterfell seat.
If Littlefinger plants the note and somehow it connects to like the Hand of the King or even Robert himself, right? Where the crown is somehow responsible for it. So it's just Robb versus the crown. And then the Lannister conflict is going to come between Stannis and I don't know how actually, you know what? I think if Littlefinger plans this out enough, he can get Stannis to be pissed off at the Lannisters about, Joffrey's ascension. Yeah. I don't know if Robert dies anywhere in this quick little, vignette of time we're looking at right here. If Ned has looked like he was trying to assassinate Robb and Catelyn, and then, eventually he successfully got Benjen in this little plot. Then, you have Robb going with Catelyn with the Riverlands, and then, Littlefinger's there, so he's going to get Lysa, his little dog, Lysa, who is one of the biggest simps of all time within Game of Thrones. And then, so you have those three houses again. It's basically the rebellion beginning again, except imagine if Littlefinger's able to broker a deal with the Reach to get Robb to marry Marjorie in this instance where they actually go after the crown. But I think what needs to happen is Robert needs to die. If Robert dies and then it's like all out war, then I think you could do that where those three basically align together saying like, hey, we want the crown to pay for its assassination attempt, or they have to pay for. I don't know if they just break out an all-out war at that point, but as soon as there's like a crisis of succession, then I think all-out war could start again, just like we saw in the original timeline. And dude, if Littlefinger got the Reach with the Vale, with the Riverlands, with the North, dude,
he might get Dorne. He might get Dorne too. They're completely anti. What do you mean? How does he get Dorne?
Anti-Lannister.
Robb has to either marry somebody in the Reach or somebody in Dorne. But if Littlefinger's really playing the long game here, okay, he could, like years earlier, find a way to ally Benjen, like marry Benjen to somebody in Dorne or the Reach, vice versa, right? And then Robb can marry the other one, and then they'll really have a massive coalition. And then, as far as the whole assassination letter thing, I guess what I was imagining is like Jon Snow having developed like a really personal and like obvious connection with the Lannisters. I guess I didn't say this, but I was like imagining a position where Jon Snow is like a part of the Kingsguard or like training. Maybe it's like implied he's eventually going to be a part of the Kingsguard, kind of Jaime taking him under his wing sort of thing. So then it could be seen, it could be kind of a believable from a distance or even close up that if the Lannisters are caught hiring a hit on these guys and then Jon Snow becomes legitimized right in that moment, then all you have to do is connect the dots of like, wait a minute. I know what's happening here. They're training this guy to be a Lannister-friendly guy leading up north because they know we're not friendly with the Lannisters. Yeah, dude, imagine that. The North, the Reach, possibly Dorne. And let's not forget about the Vale too. Let's not forget the Iron Islands. Boy, we never talked about this. Littlefinger could have gone over there and said, hey, Balon, let's postpone the rebellion. I like what you're thinking, but let's just wait a few years till Robb comes of age. We're going to make this thing great.
Yeah, let's reason with Balon Greyjoy. This is like playing chess with a pigeon. Why would you ever reason with someone that's it's unreasonable, right? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
There's no reasoning with this guy. Like, would you want to wait? He's like, wait, you mean start right now? It's like, stop, Balon, please. Speaking of George Costanza again, if Balon Greyjoy just did the opposite of every natural inclination he had, he would just be...
He'd be king.
Yeah, it'd be a god killer, dude. He'd be amazing.
He's at tier 0. No, he'd be king. But okay, so maybe that's out of the question. Maybe Littlefinger tries to reason with him. Maybe Balon, is an idiot like normal, and then Littlefinger says, take him out. Now I'll work with Victarion.
I think Balon's rebellion still happens because the realm is just kind of shaken up like that. If anything, Balon's rebellion still happens. Let's just talk about your favorite part of the entire world of A Song of Ice and Fire. If Balon's rebellion happens and post Balon's rebellion, Jorah is up there, Mormont, and he's poaching these little slave boys. Do you think Benjen exiles him, or does he let him stay around? Do you think Jorah still goes over there, or is he still able to be a simp?
Good question. I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't really know what Benjen's ruling style is. Is he that much weaker than Ned? I feel like he'd kind of have just the same... Is it wrong to think that he would just kind of be a clone of Ned in terms of like how he rules? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So, I mean, that's always a question mark. Let us know down in the comments. What do you think? Is Jorah still in Westeros? Yeah. Go over to Essos. Do you think... my opinion is Dany's storyline still goes straightforward as planned. That Viserys still dies to Khal Drogo, and Dany is able to ascend, become the Khaleesi and everything. The only thing that really changes is Barristan. If Barristan doesn't go over there, then Dany dies, right? But does Barristan still stay on the Kingsguard during all of this?
Well, I think so.
When do you think Robert dies? Because as soon as Joffrey gets in power, and if he's a little stinker, yeah, he's definitely going to kind of push his own agenda. He might be a little less stinker, but I still think he might dismiss Barristan. I think if Littlefinger really wants pure chaos, he needs Robert to die at some point. Robert dies, then you have a question of succession if you have enough rumors of Joffrey's, but do we even have enough questions because there's not enough bastards around to show like, hey, look, there's 100 Baratheon bastards, all of them have black hair, and there's one supposed to be legitimate heir, and it's blonde hair. What's going on here, guys?
I think the utility of Joffrey in this version of the story is not the whole bastard scandal. I think it's more like if the North is getting rowdy and wanting to, maybe go to war with the South, and Ned is just down there thinking, like, what the fuck is going on? I did not order an assassination. No one ordered an assassination. Like, Cersei, did you do it? Jaime, you? Anybody? They're like, no. And it's like, okay, well, I spend all my time with these guys. It's not like in the main timeline where I'm suspicious as fuck of these guys all the time because I don't know them really. All I know is Jaime was sitting on the throne one day and I didn't like that because I'm a bitch. I actually know him pretty well now, and I don't think they hired this hit. So I'm not just going to support this war, and Robert's going to be like, okay, sweetie, I take your word. And then they don't march on the North, or they don't like reciprocate the war, and maybe it doesn't get that escalated. But if Robert gets taken out, okay, and Joffrey ascends, that little shit's going straight to war. He's going to be aggressive as hell, especially if Ned gets taken out too. I almost think maybe Littlefinger, it's more advantageous to take out Ned earlier and then Robert, because if you take out Ned, then the whole... for sure thing about the assassination letter and Robert being calm, that kind of goes out the window right away. So there's a couple different ways you could do it. But Joffrey being in power would guarantee that war, at least the reciprocal nature of it on the crown side for sure. He's not going to roll over.
So during all of this, we said that Jon Snow might be being pushed to be part of the Kingsguard, which I think makes sense, and that might be a reason why he has to get legitimized, because like, oh, no bastard's going to be part of the Kingsguard.
Right, yeah.
So that might be a reason why he has to get legitimized in the eyes of all these other high lords. But Jon Snow is not going to go to the wall, I don't think, if he's just a southern boy now. He's a good old southern boy. He likes the heat. He likes the good weather. He likes the smell, the nasty King's Landing.
He's not going north. Why the hell would he? He's got a good life down south. It's all he knows. He's got, Uncle Jaime to look up to, bros in the Kingsguard. It's actually a great situation. I don't see him going to the wall at all. If you want to talk about like the whole White Walker conflict, I mean, I don't know. I guess it develops. Maybe Jorah or Mormont dies this time, but then again, they're not even going to like be in the position to bring that hand back and bring the bodies back. So the Whites wouldn't even be there at that time. So it's kind of
attack successfly because they're able to get over the wall.
Eventually,
they're near where the gift is. We have definitely wildlings kind of spilling out in there. But what's Bloodraven's plan? Because I don't know if Bran's going to be born in this scenario.
I think almost guaranteed Bran is not born. So I think we don't touch Bloodraven because he's got to have a different person completely. Like, what else could he do?
If we had to write this as like because it starts getting to fanfic. We talk about this every time we do a video like this. This far out, we start doing a fanfic. But if we had to fill that void with some person, you know, as much as people want Euron, the master rapist, I don't think he is, as much as the three-eyed predator is a nasty little boy himself. I don't know if he gets Euron, but I think maybe Bran could be born from Benjen, because if Benjen, like you said, he's
plowing Catelyn?
Yeah, or no, not plowing Catelyn. If Benjen has his own wife, you know, up there and has children, because I don't think Benjen's going to go up to the wall. I don't think he's going to pull a Jor Mormont and go up to the wall right after, you know, Robb is able to ascend the throne or the Lord of Winterfell title. I think maybe Benjen has his own kids. And if he has his own kids, he has the blood of the old or the first men. So why wouldn't he have a child that might be the Green Seer, the ultimate blood raven? It's like the 1 in a million shot of being this.
True. Yeah, no, 100%. He probably would have his own kids. And like we talked about earlier, I don't know if that's somebody from the Reach or if it's somebody from Dorne or if it's just another random like Northerner. I have no idea. But probably it's going to be someone important because they're going to need to broker some kind of alliances along the way. It's just the thing that they do. He's not going to the wall at all. I guess we kind of departed from it a little bit, and we probably can't go too much more beyond it. But if I know there's a lot of variables, who do you think comes out on top, at least of the initial warfare between the North Coalition, which let's just say conservatively is the North, the Reach, the Riverlands? We don't have to throw in Dirty Dorne, I guess. We just set that aside because it's not a guarantee.
I think they're playing the long game too, and we haven't talked about
are.
Varys' Blackfire plot there with John Condom.
But so then who do you think wins that? Because then it's basically that coalition, the North, the Riverlands, and the Reach versus the Westerlands and the Crownlands, and I guess the Stormlands too. Yeah, so it's 3v3. Who do you think wins that conflict?
I think it's hard because there's like a huge force from the North, you know,
there
the
is,
northern forces versus like the central forces. Because even if you said that, I think the Reach is going to be with the North at this point. It's going to be hard because the Reach would just suffocate. You saw in Clash of Kings, second season of Game of Thrones, that as soon as the Reach started suffocating the supply lines into King's Landing, that just immediately broke into riots.
When Mace the Ace takes off that constrictive belt on his belly and it flops over all the rest of the Seven Kingdoms, man. Yeah, it's hard to escape that opprestion. But I don't know.
However, if you have Stannis on the side of, so if Robert's leading them back into battle and you have Stannis and Renly's there still, dude.
That's what I was gonna say. Okay. It's a Stannis Tywin together.
Me and Stannis and Tywin. The reflections, like you can imagine, like the bouncing off of the sun rays off of one person's bald head onto the other, and just keeps going back and forth until it just.
It's like when you put two cell phones on speaker and like put them next to each other, and it just forms that feedback loop. Oh, dude, absolutely, dude. Robert and Ned would be looking at that in the distance on the battlefield. They have to excuse themselves to go plow in the tent. Your name may be Stark, but your taint knows you're a Baratheon whore now, Ned.
As much as the power of the North with the Reaches, which combined together, how powerful those two are, I think it has to be Tywin and Stannis. Those two know what's going on. They would crush things. Now, it would be a very long, very prolonged war, and maybe that just sets it up for young Griff to come in at the end, and then. I don't want Danny Andrews, right? Let's keep Barristan over in with dude. Add that to the trio now. Tywin, Barristan, Stannis.
Shit.
Get me a towel.
It's so good. Dude, just imagine the dynamic between Stannis and Tywin. At first, super like butting heads, like rival warlords. Over time, learn that they have to cooperate, and then like by the end, they're fucking bros, comrades.
Classic buddy cop movie.
Classic, dude. It's so fucking good. Neither one of them, well, I was going to say neither one of them married, but I forgot Stannis is married. He just only fucks his wife once a year.
Hey, thanks for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see more content like this and smash that like button.
Or not, we don't care.